Alright YouTube, so as we discussed in my last video, I wanted to make a single video talking about the PvP for Fallout 76 and everything we learned at QuakeCon 2018. They answered quite a bit of questions and they gave us a lot of new information that I think makes a lot of people happy. Of course, there's going to be some people who still have some issues, but I think a lot of people should be satisfied with everything that we learned. So for starters, when it comes to PvP in Fallout 76, you cannot fight somebody who is below level 5. Now, they actually haven't answered, or I don't know if anybody's even posed the question to them, if you are the one that is below level 5, can you kill somebody who's higher level than you? I don't know if they'd allow that. Maybe if you're just below that level, like nobody's doing damage to anybody. I don't know. Now, on to the newer information, which is pretty much everything, because we didn't actually know anything about PvP up until this point. When it comes to two players trying to fight each other, if I come up to you and shoot you, I'm doing very little damage. Todd Howard compared it to just slapping somebody. You're not doing full damage. But if you fire back at me, then we engage in full-on PvP. We're doing full damage to each other, and then we're fighting till one of us dies, and the winner gets bottle caps and experience. Now, if say I die in that scenario, that's when the revenge system kicks in. I have the ability to, okay, if I go back and try to fight this guy again and I can beat him, I get double the rewards. I get double the experience, double the bottle caps. Something I actually forgot to mention in my recap video for the QuakeCon panel was that the cap reward is based on level, so I'm assuming if you're a lower level person beating somebody who's higher level than you, you'd get a better cap reward than if that was reversed. If I'm a higher level person, I beat you, you're lower level, my cap reward is probably going to be lower. They also revealed at this panel that you can actually loot each other now, which was something we couldn't do before. They said we wouldn't be able to loot each other at all, but now you can actually loot the junk stuff, the bullshit things that you just pick up off the ground all the time, like tin cans and whatever. There can also be good stuff in the junk section of your inventory, but still, like, it's not anything major like armor or weapons. This, I believe, to be a very, very good change because death meant nothing before. They talk about this during the QuakeCon panel. Death meant nothing. If you died, there's zero consequences. You respawn, nothing happens. So now, death carries just a little bit of weight. You can go drop all your junk off before you engage in PvP and questing, but still, if you happen to have some stuff on you, it can be looted. So when it comes to respawning in Fallout 76 after you die, the closest location to you is absolutely free, and so is Vault 76. Anything after that is going to cost bottle caps, and it'll be based on distance. The further away it is, the more bottle caps it's going to cost. Now let's hop back to the PvP, because this is pretty big news for those that don't already know. Say one of us does not want to engage in PvP actually. You can still kill that player. Even though you're doing very little damage, you can still do enough to inevitably kill them. If this happens, if you murder another player, you gain absolutely nothing. You don't get any bottle caps, you don't get any experience, and you cannot loot their junk. You get placed as a big red star on the map. Of course, other players can see this. You can no longer see any other players on the map. You don't know where they're going to be at any point in time. If they come running up to you, yes, obviously you can visually see them, but you won't be able to pull up your map and know where other players are at. You also, as a wanted murderer, cannot go into stealth mode, which is something that I forgot to mention in my recap video as well, which is pretty bad. Like, you can't even stealth away from this. Like, you're going to be seen on the map at all times. Now, if you are wanted, obviously there's going to be a bounty on your head, so if other players kill you, they get paid the bounty. But it turns out that the bounty actually comes out of your own bottle caps, which is decently punishing. It depends on how much money matters in the game. But a question I have that I don't even know if anybody's even thought to ask yet, if the bounty comes out of my own bottle caps, what happens if I don't have any bottle caps in my inventory? In the previous Fallout games, you could store bottle caps into any area where you can store items. So what if I were to store all my bottle caps in, say, the stash in my settlement, and then go around killing other players? How does a bounty get paid? The only argument against this is that maybe we can't store our bottle caps in this game, but I don't even know why they'd implement that. That'd just be kind of weird. But I think this is a pretty important question because while being a wanted murderer is pretty bad, ultimately the only punishment is having to pay somebody out of your own bottle caps, so what happens if I don't have any? When it comes to PvP, you can ignore / block players. This makes it to where they don't see you on the map at all, but they can still come across you in the world. If they happen to walk in your direction and find you again, they can still engage with you, shoot you, try to kill you, annoy you, grief you, whatever. All you can really do is just fast travel away from them to a further away location where they're probably never going to find you because they can't see you on the map, or just try to hop into a different server. But at least you can still kind of block players. There's also a pacifist flag that you can turn on, which makes it to where your bullets won't damage other players. They actually implemented this because of in-studio testing. Some of the people were actually jumping in front of other players shooting, which would then make you shoot me, you damage me, so now I can fire back at you, and then we engage in full-on PvP. So before this pacifist flag was introduced, players were already forcing other players into PvP situations. Todd Howard seemed genuinely surprised by this, which is pretty crazy and kind of telling of how little he plays multiplayer games. Players are pretty damn smart. Also, when it comes to PvP, they've tried to normalize it if it's a higher level player trying to fight a lower level player, so that the lower level player has a bit of a chance. Like, your gear's kind of brought up if you're a lower level guy, and your gear's kind of brought down if you're higher level. It doesn't make your, like, really strong weapons and armor weak necessarily, but it just brings it down a little bit so that there's kind of an even footing. I don't have a problem with this. I don't actually like it either, because I don't think you should necessarily be punished in any kind of way if you're the person who's willing to grind your ass off and get high level and get really high level gear, but it's just for PvP, and PvP really doesn't mean anything anyway. Also, speaking of levels, I don't know if there is a level cap in this game. When Todd Howard's talking about normalizing the combat, normalizing the PvP, and if you're a low-level player, what is your incentive to fight a high-level player? And he uses the example of, the level 100 guy in power armor is going to be hard to kill, but that's going to earn you a lot of bottle caps because of the difference in level. And I don't think that's a number he's just pulling out of his ass. Like, he wouldn't say level 100 if you couldn't get to level 100. Something else that obviously pertains to combat is VATS. In the early stages of VATS, when you first start the game, VATS does not allow you to target body parts. That's something you're going to have to invest in perception, and there's probably perks for that or something. They didn't fully elaborate on this, so I'm assuming if you VATS somebody without being able to target the specific body parts, that it'd probably just highlight their entire body or something. Something else that can pertain to PvP is there's going to be proximity chat. This is just useful in general. It doesn't have to be for PvP. You can just talk to other players without having to be in a party with them or having to be stuck behind an emote wheel. But it can be useful for PvP because you can, for one, talk shit to each other, but you can also agree on PvP. You can walk up to the guy and be like, hey man, you want to fight really quick? Let's see which one of us gets the better of the other. Like, that can be fun. I think that can be interesting. Whether or not that'll actually happen is completely up to the players, obviously. And that's everything you need to know about the PvP for Fallout 76. A quick recap of everything: if you want to engage in actual PvP, you have to fire at each other, then you can start. Whoever kills the other player is rewarded with experience and bottle caps. The person that dies has the option to revenge, which will give you double the rewards. Bottle caps are based on level, and if you kill another player, you can loot their junk. If somebody else does not want to engage in PvP, you can still murder them. If you do, you gain nothing from it. No experience, no bottle caps, no loots. You get put on the map where everybody can see you as a red star. You cannot see other players. You cannot stealth. There is a bounty on your head. If and when somebody kills you, that bounty is paid out of your own bottle caps. And even if you are a higher level player, you still can be killed in PvP by somebody that is lower level than you. Really quickly before we end the video, I do have a few questions. Again, the one I posed earlier: what happens if I don't have the bottle caps in my inventory to pay the bounty if I'm wanted? And it's not even that I could store my bottle caps. What if I spend them all? Or what if I just don't have enough? The bounty is 1,000 and I only have 20 bottle caps in my inventory. Another question that I've seen asked by other YouTubers like Toolshed Video, shout out to my dude again: if we're in a group together and somebody wants to become a wanted murderer, how does that work with the group? Do we all become wanted, or is it just them? And lastly, when it comes to the slap damage, as they refer to it as, before we engage in PvP, is it different with weapons? Is my pull Q slap damage going to be the same as my missile launcher slap damage? I can see it going both ways, but I'd rather it be different with each weapon. And that'll pretty much wrap up the video, my dudes. What are your thoughts now? Now that we know all this information for PvP, we know pretty much everything. I don't really have a whole lot of questions other than the ones I posed here at the end. What are your thoughts? How do you feel about the PvP for Fallout 76 now? I'll be completely honest, I didn't have much of an issue. If you've been watching the channel since the announcement of Fallout 76, I've said 1,000 times that PvP means absolutely nothing in this game. So it never really bothered me to begin with. I have complained about it a little bit in the past. I can see some problems with it, but it never bothered me that much to where I'm like, I don't want to play Fallout 76. But I feel like these are some good changes, and I like what I've heard at QuakeCon. So as always, guys, let me know your thoughts below, and if you went on to enjoy the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new, turn on notifications, follow me on Twitter at TheDashingDavid. Links to my social networks are in the description and in the outro. Later, guys.